Another swipe left. Tinder was officially dead tonight. Just endless selfies and dudes who thought gym pics counted as personality. My friends were already buzzing about some club downtown, but the thought of getting dolled up for another round of disappointing conversations made me want to crawl into bed. Then, boom, a flash of messy hair and a disarming smile popped up. Nathan. His profile was cute, the kind with silly facts about board games that made me think he might actually be fun. I swiped right and crossed my fingers. A match. We messaged for a bit, and damn, the guy had banter. A week later, we were sitting across from each other in one of those hipster coffee places, and it was like magic. Everything felt easy, like we'd been friends forever. Maybe Tinder wasn't completely useless after all. We ended up wandering the streets for hours, laughing so hard my stomach ached. We passed a street guitarist, and without a word, Nathan dug a $10 bill out of his pocket and dropped it into the guy's case with a dramatic bow. He leaned in, all serious-like, and whispered, "Here's to our happily ever after." Cute, right? And yeah, a part of me melted. But another part, the nagging little voice in the back of my head, thought, "Really, dude? A bit much, isn't it?" See, Nathan had this sweet, always looking out for you vibe that was super appealing at first. But I don't know, sometimes it felt a bit smothering. Back at my place, I could tell he wanted to stay. Standing in my doorway, he had this hopeful puppy dog look. Honestly, he was adorable. But I'll admit, I was feeling a little mischievous. "Come on in, I said, trying to sound playful but knowing there was a bit of an edge to it. "Or are you afraid?" The thing is, I didn't mean to hurt his feelings. I guess I was just testing him, seeing if he had a backbone under all that sweetness. Of course, the second I said it, I sort of regretted it. But it was too late now. The playful grin Nathan wore just seconds before vanished like it was never there. Something in his eyes went dark, a flicker of pain I'd never seen before. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a forced smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sure, no problem," he mumbled, stepping into my apartment. I tried to brush off the awkwardness, blaming it on a long day and figuring a bit of lighthearted teasing would dissolve the tension. Boy, was I wrong. The early days of our relationship were still fresh in my mind. Whirlwind dates, hours spent talking about everything and nothing, the feeling that we'd somehow stumbled upon something special. Nathan went above and beyond, always checking in, always ready with a surprise or a sweet gesture. It started to feel like I was in a fairy tale. A fairy tale where the prince was a bit more eager servant than knight in shining armor. "He's so perfect for you, my best friend," Sarah gushed over our weekly wine night. "Seriously, what a keeper." "He is," I agreed, forcing a brightness I didn't entirely feel. "It's just, I don't know, sometimes I wish he had a bit more of a backbone." As Nathan took over the household duties, cooking, cleaning, even the laundry I hated, a tiny part of me was relieved. I'd always been a go with the flow kind of girl, and having someone step up and just handle stuff was nice. Yet, that same little voice that had quipped on our first date poked at me with increasing frequency. My friends started picking up on it too. "Dude, Nathan's totally whipped," they'd laugh during girls' nights. I'd join in, the playful teasing feeling a bit more acidic each time. One lazy Sunday, as we sprawled on the couch watching some dumb rom-com, it just sort of slipped out. "Babe, you're such a s sometimes, you know? Maybe I should find someone stronger." It was meant to be a playful jab, a way to stir him up. Instead, a thick silence fell that seemed to suck the air out of the room. The stupid movie blared on, the tinny dialogue suddenly a painful contrast to the heavy quiet between us. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. I desperately searched Nathan's face for a reaction, any reaction, but he just stared blankly at the screen. Finally, with a curt nod, he rose from the couch, mumbled something about needing some air, and left the apartment. His exit was so abrupt it felt more like a dismissal than a break. The days that followed were a haze of confusion and worry. The warmth in Nathan's eyes had cooled. He went through the motions, work, dates, even the occasional kiss, but it was like something inside him had switched off. Gone were the goofy texts, the playful touches, the sense of effortless connection we once shared. I tried everything. I cooked his favorite meal, planned a surprise movie night, even upped my flirt game to see if a spark could be reignited. But with each attempt, the distance seemed to grow a bit wider. His replies were polite, his affection measured. I felt like a ghost in our once vibrant relationship. One morning, I woke to the overflowing laundry basket I usually tossed directly into the washer. Next to it, a stack of dirty dishes filled the sink. These simple chores had become Nathan's way of quietly making me feel cared for, and their absence made my stomach clench. Was this a deliberate power play? A silent punishment for my careless words? The guilt was a constant gnawing ache in my chest. I missed the way he used to look at me, the way he made me feel safe with those silly little gestures. Yet, my frustration and mounting insecurity were just as strong. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. The confrontation had been brewing for days. Nathan, please, what in the world is going on? Why are you acting like this? He sighed, a heavy exhale that seemed to carry the weight of everything unspoken. Am I overreacting? Honestly, Rose, tell me. Because that comment of yours, it really hurt. My first gut reaction was defensiveness. Overreacting? Seriously? But another part of me, the part laced with guilt, squeezed my insides. I suddenly remembered that flicker of pain in Nathan's eyes. Could he possibly be this sensitive about it? Seriously, Rose, that dress is killer. What's the occasion? Sarah's voice jolted me from my work daydream. Oh, nothing special, I lied, smoothing down the skirt I'd bought on a recent shopping spree. A few months ago, work clothes were the last thing on my mind, but lately, they'd become a strange source of focus. Was I subconsciously trying to catch someone's eye? The thought made me squirm with guilt. The fact was, my insecurity was ballooning. Nathan's distance felt like a constant reminder of that careless comment, a confirmation of my nagging suspicion that he wanted someone stronger. Leaving work, I now lingered at the loud, neon-lit bar downstairs, letting my coworkers convince me to stay for just one more. It was there I met Alex, all playful banter and cocky smiles. He didn't care if I was a bit of a pushover, in fact, it seemed to fuel his bravado. His attention was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the emptiness I felt waiting for a text, a touch, a flicker of warmth from Nathan. It started small. Shared jokes over late-night drinks, a flirty text message here and there. I told myself it was harmless, a little ego boost to combat the growing distance at home. But soon, the buzz I got from Alex's attention wasn't so little anymore. My friends noticed the change in me. You're glowing, girl, did you get a new workout routine or something? I'd laugh it off, hiding the guilt churning in my stomach. The truth was, my glow wasn't coming from the gym, but from a dangerous mix of neglect, resentment, and the thrill of feeling desired again. The excitement of anticipating Alex's playful messages started to override my worry over Nathan. My outfits became bolder, my replies to Alex a little flirtier. All this attention was filling a void inside me, a void that had been growing for longer than I cared to admit. Nathan, wrapped up in his own hurt and withdrawal, seemed oblivious to the change in me. That was part of the problem, wasn't it? I needed him to fight for me, to notice, to make me feel wanted. And since he wasn't, well, Alex started to seem like a less and less terrible substitute. The buzzing of my phone dragged me from another restless sleep. It was a simple text notification, usually mundane, but this one sent a jolt of panic through me. Card declined. Limit reached. My stomach plummeted. Nathan handled the finances. This had never happened before. For years, his steady income had provided a comfortable life, a safety net of dinners out and those little luxuries I'd come to see as necessities. My job as a freelance writer paid the bills, but fun money had always come from him. Honestly, I preferred it that way. Numbers and budgets stressed me out. But now, the unchecked retail therapy sessions I'd used to soothe the sting of Nathan's distance came screeching to a halt. The realization hit hard. I had become dangerously dependent on him, not just emotionally, but financially too. When I confronted Nathan, his reaction was worse than I'd expected. No trace of the gentle, generous man I thought I knew remained. His eyes were cold, his voice tight. Rose, seriously? We need to talk about your spending. Do you even realize how much frivolous stuff you've bought? His words burned. Yes, I knew the handbag was a splurge. Yes, those yoga classes were pricey. But wasn't this his role, to provide, to make life easier for me? The fact that now it felt like a weapon being turned against me ignited a spark of resentment I couldn't ignore. His solution was the final blow. We need a budget, he declared. One you can stick to, with clear contributions from you. No more free rides. His words echoed in my ears. Free rides. Was that how he'd always seen our relationship? Suddenly, the things I'd dismissed as Nathan being sweet now felt like calculated generosity, the power to withdraw it held over me. Grocery shopping morphed into a dreaded ritual. Every item I picked up, I pictured Nathan's critical gaze, heard his inevitable questions. Do we really need organic blueberries? Can't you get the store-brand cereal? It felt like every bit of control I'd passively relinquished was now being aggressively wrenched back, under the guise of financial prudence. Guilt had become my constant shadow. It lurked in the forced smiles I gave Nathan, the empty promises I made to myself. No more flirting with Alex, I'd repeat, only to find myself eagerly responding to his witty text minutes later. The thrill of his attention was like a drug, a potent antidote to the crushing loneliness and insecurity at home. The company's annual summer bash, usually a boring obligation, suddenly seemed like a beacon in the darkness. Dresses were meticulously tried on, makeup tutorials obsessively watched. It was a ridiculous amount of effort for a work event, but the yearning to feel desirable, even for just one night, was overpowering. The party was in full swing, the music loud, the drinks flowing freely. I found myself pinned into a corner by Alex, his touch bolder, his whispers landing too close to my ear. One drink turned into 3, then 4, and the guilt that usually kept me in check was fading into a hazy blur. The kiss happened suddenly. It was sloppy, fueled by liquor and an intoxicating mix of desperation and defiance. In that moment, I didn't think of Nathan, didn't picture the hurt on his face. All I wanted was to feel something other than the gnawing emptiness inside. The next morning, the shame hit me like a ton of bricks. What the hell did I do? The image of the kiss, Alex's smirk, played on repeat in my mind. I vowed it was a one-time thing, a drunken mistake born from the emotional roller coaster I'd been strapped into. But Alex had other plans. His texts grew relentless. The playful flirtation had morphed into something insistent, a dark undertone to his messages that sent a shiver of both excitement and fear down my spine. I found myself torn between revulsion and a twisted desire for more. It was a dangerous game, and I knew it. One night, after yet another silent dinner with Nathan, a text flashed. Drinks? My place, it read. The guilt screamed at me. My rational mind protested, but another part, fueled by resentment and the deep-rooted need for any kind of attention, whispered, just one. The second kiss wasn't an accident. It was a choice. A reckless, selfish choice made by a scared woman trapped in a cycle of neglect, guilt, and the desperate hunger to feel like she mattered. Stuck at the office again. Project's a nightmare. The lie rolled off my tongue with practiced ease as I sent a text to Nathan. It was a necessary evil. Each lingering look with Alex, each furtive rendezvous, required a trail of flimsy excuses to cover my tracks. The guilt, once so powerful, was dulling. Desperation was a powerful anesthetic. I'd tell myself it was temporary, that I'd end things with Alex once I felt somewhat in control again. But the truth, a truth I desperately pushed down, was that I was addicted to the rush of it all. Meanwhile, Nathan's withdrawal had turned into something far more sinister. His silence held a new edge, his gaze felt accusatory. When he'd try to engage in conversation, I'd snap, defensiveness my only shield. With each interaction, the chasm between us yawned wider. A creeping paranoia began to infect my days. Was that car following me? Were my hurried whispers into the phone in the bathroom being overheard? My reflection in the mirror looked haggard, the lies I spun starting to etch themselves onto my face. Then, the first text came. I see you. Just 3 words, sent from an unknown number. My blood ran cold. A sick joke? A wrong number? Or was it a warning shot across my bow, proof that my deception was about to be laid bare? The texts continued, growing increasingly menacing. Hints about my late nights, veiled references to my little secret. Someone was watching. Someone knew. The finger of suspicion began pointing directly at Nathan. Was this his twisted revenge for my betrayal? Confronting him was an act of desperation fueled by mounting terror. Is this you, sending me these sick texts? His denial wasn't the angry outburst I expected, but rather a look of genuine confusion that shook me to my core. That night, driven by a mix of fear and defiance, I crept into his room while he slept. His phone lay innocently on the nightstand. Scrolling through his texts, calls, and search history revealed nothing. No secret burner phones, no incriminating messages. The doubt was a corrosive acid eating away at the last shreds of my sanity. If it wasn't Nathan, then who? Had Alex gone completely unhinged? Or was I simply losing my grip on reality, every shadow proof of my own guilt? Guess what? I got that promotion. Nathan's voice was uncharacteristically jubilant. A jolt of fear shot through me before I could muster a convincing smile. My heart was pounding. Wasn't this the promotion our mutual friend Sarah had casually mentioned weeks ago? The one he hadn't breathed a word about? He went on about celebratory dinners, making a night of it. My mind raced, the guilt and paranoia choking me. How could I face him, knowing that every word out of my mouth was another lie, as the web I'd woven tightened around me? Later that evening, as he got ready for a work meeting, a desperate impulse took hold. His briefcase lay open, files sprawled across the bed. It was wrong, I knew it, but fear overrode reason. Rummaging through, my hands landed on a thick folder I didn't recognize. Inside wasn't the project proposal he'd mentioned, but rather legal documents, real estate contracts, all bearing only his name. It was like the floor gave way beneath me. The house we'd dreamed about, planned together, it was a solo endeavor all along. The cornerstone of our shared future was nothing more than a tool for his carefully calculated revenge. His return startled me, and I fumbled to hide the documents. The confrontation was inevitable. It exploded out of me. The teasing, his chilling withdrawal, the affair, those damn texts. Everything came tumbling forth in a torrent of fear and self-loathing. The rage I expected never came. Instead, Nathan just slumped into a chair, the mask of warmth finally slipping away. When he spoke, his voice was chillingly calm. Yes, Rose, I know about the affair. Did you think I was that oblivious? The texts, the sickening game he'd played, preying on my guilt, it was all his doing. My vision blurred with tears. This wasn't the Nathan I knew, the man I'd thought was so weak, so easy to manipulate. This was a stranger fueled by a deep, calculated fury, his eyes blazing with icy satisfaction. You mocked me, made me feel small. You underestimated me, he continued, his voice low. Well, this is what it feels like to have the power back. The foundation of our relationship wasn't just cracked, it was pulverized. In its place stood a chilling truth. I'd been hopelessly outplayed in a game I never saw coming. My mind was a hurricane of shock and disbelief. Nathan, my sweet, sometimes overly accommodating Nathan, had orchestrated this elaborate web of deceit. The magnitude of his betrayal rendered me almost speechless. Suddenly, desperation washed over me, replacing the initial shock. Nathan, please, I choked out, a pathetic imitation of the woman I'd been mere hours ago. Can't we fix this? I was wrong, I made a mistake. The plea died on my lips as I saw his gaze, vacant, devoid of any lingering warmth. My pleas for forgiveness weren't about love anymore, but about raw, animalistic terror. The life I knew, the comfortable existence, all hinged on this man before me. His next words turned my blood to ice. This was never about fixing things, Rose. It was about payback. He calmly laid out the chilling details, the slow withdrawal of affection, the way he'd fostered my resentment, all designed to drive me straight into another man's arms. Worse, he had proof. Dates, times, incriminating details of my affair, meticulously gathered. This wasn't just revenge, it was a weapon. One he could wield to destroy not only our marriage, but my reputation if I dared to walk away. The room seemed to spin. I wasn't just in a failing marriage, I was trapped, ensnared in a nightmare of my own making. Every careless word, every thoughtless act, had been a brick in the wall of this prison. Panic fueled a burst of venomous anger. You're a monster, I spat. Manipulative, twisted. How could you? I loved you. He simply shrugged, a chillingly casual gesture. Call me whatever you want, Rose. But remember, you called me weak. Well, this is what it feels like to finally reclaim the power. His words echoed in the silence. His twisted logic was undeniable. I had dismissed him, belittled him, and now, he'd played me like a pawn in a horrific, long drawn-out game. The realization washed over me. I wasn't the victim here, merely the fool who had sealed her own fate. The sound of the door slamming shut was deafening. In that stark moment, the finality of it all hit me. Nathan was gone. He moved with a speed and efficiency that mirrored his chilling scheme of revenge, leaving nothing behind but empty drawers and the lingering scent of his aftershave. Days later, the blow came in the form of a crisp white envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it, a summons, the opening salvo in a legal battle I couldn't afford to fight. Nathan's lawyer was ruthlessly precise, citing infidelity, my reckless spending. Every transgression meticulously laid out. Hope flickered when I reached out to my friends. Maybe Sarah, with her compassionate heart, would still be in my corner. That hope died quickly. Each conversation began with tentative sympathy until I was forced to reveal the whole ugly truth. Nathan's manipulations, my role in driving him to this dark place. One by one, their voices cooled, their support curdling into judgment. "You made him sound so awful, Rose," Sarah had said, disappointment heavy in her tone. "But playing mind games? That's just another level." The unspoken accusation stung. I couldn't even paint myself as the victim convincingly anymore. My past complaints about Nathan, now exposed, seemed like damning proof of my own cruelty. Eviction came with swift brutality. My landlord, a friendly face until news spread, barely met my eyes as he handed me the notice. Boxes piled up haphazardly, my belongings no longer fitting into the life I'd built. My parents, shamed and disapproving, reluctantly offered shelter, my old childhood bedroom, a stark contrast to the luxurious master suite I once called home. Social circles dissolved like sugar in water. Whispers followed me, the cheater, the gold digger. My frantic attempts to explain, to frame myself as a victim trapped in Nathan's elaborate revenge scheme, fell on skeptical ears. Time stretched into an endless dirge. Menial jobs, once unthinkable, became a lifeline. Each meager paycheck was a harsh reminder of the life I'd taken for granted, the consequences of my carelessness laid bare. In the quiet darkness of my childhood room, surrounded by teenage relics, the truth was inescapable. My choices led me here, each selfish act another stone on the path to my own